pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Cindy, if we could please do roll call.
Councilmember Krasinski. Present. Councilmember Blanky.
She's absent.
Mayor Carnegie. Councilmember Falca.
Here.
Councilmember Rendell.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Turner.
Here.
Councilmember Sutherland.
Here. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to excuse the mayor and Ms. Blanky.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I'm looking for approval of agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda. Second.
In a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Citizen participation on agenda items only. Even though we're only talking really about one thing, but by all means, please come forward if you cannot stay for the entirety of the meeting. Going once, going twice. Okay, we will close citizen participation. New business. We are here today to discuss parks capital improvements. So it's just a discussion with regards to what we want to do with the parks, where we want to see our parks go. So we will open the floor.
Mark explain what he did. Mark explain kind of what he did.
Oh, okay, sure. By all means. Go right ahead, Mr. Axdale.
Good evening. So I was asked to put together basically a packet for the city council to discuss the capital improvements that were needed for the city parks, to take pictures of each park and list what needed to be done, and if possible, attach cost to that, and what method that I recommended be utilized in making that improvement. So I went through each park. If you would like, we can go through these together, each park. The beginning of your packet, we start out with Meadows Park. As you know, we just went through and totally revamped that park. All the playground equipment is new. It has a new shelter. It has a new barbecue grill, a hot coal bin. Really, the only thing left to do to the park is make a repair to the path. And I recommend that we do this with concrete as opposed to the asphalt, just for the size of the path and what's already there at the park to make it uniform. And I believe this can be done in-house by the DPW. And you can see my estimated cost is $88.50 for this.
Okay.
Any questions on Meadows? Boris Park. As you know, we just went through and put all new playground equipment in Boris Park. Really, the only thing left to do at Boris Park is to reconstruct and widen the pathway. And we believe the estimated cost for this is $34,150. If we were to go concrete, the DPW probably could do this. If we go asphalt, we're going to have to, put this out for bid. It was brought to my attention that somebody mentioned putting in a parking lot, the adjacent area next to the park. We're unable to do that because the city doesn't own enough of the property to put in an actual parking lot. So I just thought I'd address that. Any questions on Boris?
Yep. So I have a question on Boris. So when you say the part that the city owns isn't big enough to put a parking lot on it, is that like the gravel area?
That's in that gravel area, yes, but it's not the whole gravel area, correct?
So there's no portion of that gravel area that would be big enough even for a few cars to park there, like three?
No.
Okay.
No, you would have enough for like a one-lane section to pull cars in, but not enough to park any.
Okay, so absent of parking in the neighborhood, there's really not going to be any parking that's going to be accessible to.
Correct.
Okay, okay.
Now, not to say that people don't park there or
Right.
couldn't park there,
We
but
couldn't like officially
exactly.
make it a, okay, okay. Thank you.
Was the 30, oh, sorry. Ms. Bransky?
Was the $34,000 quote for the pathway for cement or asphalt?
For asphalt.
Okay, thank you.
What would the cost be for cement?
I don't have that on me right now, but I can get that.
If,
More though, right?
Yeah, it's going to be more.
well, I was just wondering too, if you had to guess, right, like the pathway at Meadows compared to Boris. It's like Meadows is gonna be 88 for concrete. Like a ballpark, how much it might be for Boris, based on the size.
I would imagine probably closer to 50.
Okay.
Any more questions on Boris? Now we go to Harrington Park and Trails. The bridge is in much need of repair. I don't have an estimated cost at this time because I need permission to actually have the engineering study done on the bridge. But that's something that will definitely have to be done is an engineering analysis because we need to check the integrity of the bridge.
Is it an unsafe condition where like people will be falling through, or is it just?
No, it's just old, and it's not unsafe where people are falling through. If it was, we would have it blocked off. But I'm talking long-term, it needs repairs.
Is that a county or do we own that? Because it goes over a county drain.
We own it. The county is a drain, so anything that would be on the banks of the drain, the county's not going to do anything. It literally has to be in the water. Now, if the bridge falls in the water, the county will take care of it.
Perfect.
But unless it's actually in the water, the county's not doing anything.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
The trails are in much need of repair, very much need of repair. As you can see the attached pictures, you can see what kind of shape the trails are in. We also recommended that these be widened to 8 feet. And my guys have went out and made several temporary repairs in the 2.5 years I've been here. You have a lot of tree roots that are growing through the path, where we've had to go out, dig the tree roots out, and cold patch or hot patch the trails. We have all, as you know, we have all new playground equipment.
So the quote for 186.5, is that for 8 feet pass?
That's for 8 feet.
If we did 6 feet, what would that be?
I don't have that, but
Ballpark it, like,
well, then
Sorry.
you would divide that by take a quarter off that,
okay.
25% less,
Okay.
right? However, we wouldn't recommend that because you want to bring that to 8 foot, and I'll tell you why. For a couple reasons. One reason is there is only 2 6-foot pavers in the whole state. They're very hard to come by. Nobody owns a 6-foot paver anymore. There's only one company that has the 2 in the whole state. And so it's a long wait to actually get for, like, if we put it out, an RFP, we put out for bid, then that company has to be in line with all these other companies to get a hold of that 6-foot paver because they're not ADA compliant. And that's why they quit when their equipment fails and they replace one, they replace it with an 8-footer, not a 6-footer, because it's not in compliance.
Right. What did we do what did we do in the 2 parks we did the pass? What did we do in?
8 foot.
We did do 8 foot? Okay.
Yep.
It just doesn't seem this wide, so that's why I was wondering. Is McKinley even wider than 8?
I'm sorry?
Is McKinley wider than 8?
I
think so.
I mean, I walk them every day, so I know my park just seems really small.
and some of
I'm
them.
gonna go measure and see if we got our 8 feet.
Some of them were 6 because I know we had to wait on that 6-foot paver, but I believe some of them are 8 as well.
So it could be 6.
It could
that
be
we
6.
did.
Yep.
And that,
Thanks.
the majority of that trail, that goes out to 14 Mile Road, correct? Where it really
Correct.
doesn't connect with any sidewalks or anything like that.
It goes out to, it connects with the sidewalk on Harrington,
Okay.
and then it goes out to 14 Mile, crosses the bridge and goes out to 14 Mile.
Right. But I'm saying, once it gets to 14 Mile, there's no, I looked at some overhead, there's no like sidewalk really even connecting it to that trail.
No.
So it kind of just dead ends into 14 Mile, right?
Correct.
So,
But
okay.
it also goes behind all of the houses, all the way
Correct.
over to 14 Mile, where the sub starts. So it is actually a really long path.
It is.
But it goes to the dead end.
Yeah, right.
Until we get that sidewalk bond.
Just for priority sakes, I'm just, if it gets much use or not, so. All right, thank you.
Next, we have Blanky Park. The DPW went out after they put in the new sign. I don't know if anybody got a chance to see it, but they totally re-landscaped the area in front of the sign, put new landscaping blocks. In this, we recommend that the pathway be replaced, reconstructed and widened to 8 feet as well. It has several areas that are desperate need of repair. And again, a major issue is tree roots over the years, bucking up the pathway. I also have in here for the 6-foot contour bench swings that we have discussed in the past, as well as the energy fitness equipment stations, and this is part of the master plan, the Park and Rec master plan. Anybody have any questions on Blanky?
Well, if we redo the path though, is the roots gonna still be the same problem? Because those are pretty mature trees there. So if we're replace it with 8 foot,
So you cut the roots out when you're doing it's just like replacing sidewalk. You go in and you dig down and you cut the roots off and then you remove them.
okay.
Sutherland?
Would fitness equipment like that be something that Spark grant funds could be used for if we were to obtain those?
I would say yes.
Okay.
I'm not an expert on grants, but I would definitely say it's part of health and fitness, and I think you would get a better chance of getting a Spark grant for that kind than you would playground equipment.
Okay, and then, so I know that we didn't get the first round of Spark grants, right? Where are we with the second round?
So the Spark grant really is not intended for purchase of new equipment.
Okay.
That's really one of the exceptions in the bottom of the list. As far as the Spark grant, so the first round, our results came in that we were pretty much bottom tier. And there's virtually no way that we can get to the top tier because they funded, I think we were like tier 7 or so. They funded most of tier 1, and the second round is pretty much going to get eaten up with tier 2. And then they've also split it out now that they're giving a portion of the money. I think they're getting rid of like the round 3 that they were originally going to do and giving it to designated communities that they've selected based on certain criteria.
But we could still apply for second round, or did?
Second round is done.
Okay, second is done, meaning,
It's passed.
okay, but did we apply for that, or?
There wasn't any hope for us.
Okay.
There are other grants out there that will be a better fit. But there was no way that, so they had a lot of criteria, and there were some things that pretty much kicked us out of it based on like how much money we have and how many parks we already have in our community.
Okay.
So talking to people, there was pretty much no chance of us getting anything, which is unfortunate. I mean, that's the horrible thing about grants and why I hate them, because you have a small amount of money and everybody is fighting for it, and a lot of it just either goes to communities that have a lot of money and they have no need, or communities that have intense need and no money.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty frustrating. We're kind of like the monkey in the middle. We wouldn't have gotten enough points to escalate us, even if we wrote some of the other things and got enough points.
I just wanted to see where we were at with that, so that if there was any hope that anything was coming from that second round, that we could level set and potentially take
The areas that were discretionary, where, we could have moved up with the points, would not have made a difference.
Okay.
The other ones were holding us back too much.
Okay.
Any more questions on Blanky?
Yes, I have some questions, Mark. So I know that this was just for purposes of telling us how dilapidated the pathway is, but on page 5, that second set of photos where it looks like half of the pathway is missing, does it still look like that?
The bottom photo?
Yeah.
On the left?
On the left?
So that's because it's been repaired. That's why it looks like that. So that's coal patch.
Okay, but is it still, I mean,
Yes.
the way I see this, it looks like there's a huge differential, like a divot when you're
Yes.
walking.
Yes, it's been filled with coal patch, but
This is what it looked like before it was.
no, this is what it looks like now afterwards.
Okay. Is there some way to fix that so it doesn't look like that, so it doesn't create a hazard?
We can go out and cut that section out and put a section of hot patch in there.
I know it's a pain, and I get it. I'm just concerned about that picture in particular. That, yeah.
I mean, if that's the directive I've given, I'm certainly can.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to just make sure that I know that this is just to demonstrate how bad it is. I totally
Absolutely.
get it, but this picture in particular just makes me concerned because I'm assuming this isn't the only space that looks like this.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have Pompo Park. As you know, in 2021, the pathways were reconstructed, and prior to that, 2020, all new playground equipment was put in. So we recommend that the path be seal coated, and the DPW, our new supervisor, has been starting through the parks, and we're doing a good to great program with the parks. So they've been over in Pompo, cutting down all the trees that are hanging over into people's yards, the trees that are growed up and coming over into the park from the drain. They've been doing a really good job cleaning up the trees in the park. So far they've done Meadows, they've done Pompo, and trying to think they've done 3 parks so far, good to great. But for Pompo, we recommend that the new pathway be seal coated, and the tennis court and floor hockey courts are in need of repair. Currently, I do not have an estimate because we need to find out what direction City Council wants to go with that, but they're going to need to be reconstructed.
Okay, Ms. Baranski?
So I have a question. It's kind of related to all the paths. We had a conversation, so the tennis court there was done when the city main ones were done. I don't know if it also needs to be redone, but they did not do the hockey court.
Okay.
So just so you know, doesn't mean it doesn't need to be redone, but.
Yep.
But my question was, I remember when we were talking about paths before, when we were setting up for this, right? So that we have, because the reason we're doing this, so that everyone understands, is now we know, and now we have something to work off of, because you can't piecemeal anything and grow a city and maintain a city, and that's what had been done. So thank you, Ms. Sutherland, for insisting that we do this. Thank you for accommodating me and doing it in a private session, or a separate meeting, because it's already been productive. But we talked about with, I think, Scott from AEW, whether the past, and I don't know if it was what you're recommending, was it sealing versus something else, and there's literature that goes both ways as to whether it's beneficial or not. Do you remember that conversation?
Yes. And so the recommendations that I'm making are coming straight from AEW.
Okay.
They've, so Mike Vigron had put together a plan specifically for the pathways.
Okay. And can you
And
tell
that's
me what
where
it
I
is?
got the
Write it down.
estimates from and the method.
Okay, and what is that exactly?
What-
Use the phrase again of what you said for the pass.
On these particular paths is seal coating.
Seal coating.
Yep.
So that's not this, what is that process in a general sense?
It's and an emulsion that they go out and they spray over the top of it that coats the asphalt to keep water from penetrating.
Okay, so it's-
Water is the enemy.
It's like a top coat,
It's like a top coat.
like a
right?
top nail polish over.
Exactly.
All right, so that is not where you.
Where at night, and it looks, people have to do it to their driveways, right? If you got an asphalt driveway, you have to seal coat it every year, is what they recommend.
We also talked about something about where you were going to go in and fill in the cracks. What's that?
So that is called crack sealing.
Okay.
And we have done that in multiple subdivisions here. But basically, there's a crack in the pathway, and they go in and they seal it with a sealant. We'll call it caulk. It's not caulk, but something similar to caulk. Again, the purpose of that is to keep water from penetrating into the pathways. I don't care if it's a pathway or if it's a road or it's a sidewalk, whatever it is, when there's cracks, water rains, water's gonna fall down in the crack, and the water pools at the base. And then when you get your freeze and thaw method, then it's gonna crack and it's gonna push out a pothole.
Got it. And then how often is the recommendation for seal coating the pass?
I believe the recommendation is every other year.
But before we would seal coat, would it make sense for the pass that have been there a while to crack seal? Because otherwise,
You would. So, but in this particular case, we wouldn't. And let me explain why.
please.
Because you either have new ones that don't need to be crack sealed, or the other ones are trash that need to be, But yes, eventually, that you're absolutely correct. That would be the method. You would crack seal it and then seal coat it, right? But we don't have any that fall in the middle. They're either brand new or they're past that point.
Okay, so based on your assessment, the newer pass. so
Yes.
That'd be McKinley,
Somerset,
Somerset, Pompo,
correct.
I don't know if Meadows.
No, Boris doesn't. You guys didn't do anything.
Boris
Boris,
isn't
you didn't do
new,
it.
no.
Never mind.
They would just need to be sealed.
Correct.
And anything else is like putting lipstick on a pig.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Kelka?
Thank you. Mark, I know that a few years ago, we did those tennis courts. Is this something that's gonna need to be done like every 3 to 4 years?
Yes and no. I don't believe, I wasn't here, but I can tell by looking at it that the correct method was not used when the tennis courts were done, because it looks like they were crack sealed and seal coated as opposed to being milled and filled. We're gonna have to get a miller in there, and they're gonna have to mill down the top 2 inches and all new asphalt put in.
Okay.
So just like a pathway, if that was done, and then there has been no seal coating that's been done on them, right? They have to be seal coated. Again, I'm keep going back to water, right? And that's the problem, is the water penetrates, it freezes, and then it causes the big cracks, or it causes potholes. So you have to keep up on the maintenance.
Sure. No, I get that. I'm just concerned about the fact that this was just done in the last 4 years or 3 years.
I think it
done.
I think it was done, and again, I wasn't here.
No, that's okay.
But I think what was done was the cheaper route bought you some time, as opposed to, and it may not have been that bad as they are now back then, and that's probably why that method was chose, because at the time.
Have you seen what was done back, I think it was like 2018, 2019? Have you
I seen the invoice.
Okay, so you're basing what you think might have been done based on the amount of money that we spent?
Correct.
Okay,
I showed it to him last night.
okay.
Yes.
I was like, there's no way.
And I'm assuming,
October of 2000.
again, I'm assuming that method was chose because at that particular time, 4, 5, 6 years ago, what
19.
2019, actually.
2019. So 4 years ago, that they weren't in the condition they are now, and you were able to you were able to crack seal them and resurface them, but there had been no seal coating done in that 4 years.
All right. Thank you.
And the fence needs to be painted really bad around the tennis court. Any more questions on Bob? When I get some part-timers?
Working on it.
Rendell Park, again, same scenario. We recommend that the 6-foot path be replaced, reconstructed with an 8-foot path. And
You're sure that's a 6-foot path because it seems like a 4-foot.
no, it's,
Like I've ridden through there quite often and with like the buggy thing on the back and it's just enough room for the trailer and me.
the trailer and you.
Yeah, like, little bike trailers. When my granddaughter was smaller, I would put her in the trailer, we would go riding.
I can't say for certain, but
Hugs to your bike.
I would, again, I'm assuming, but I would assume that the grass is probably grown over.
Okay, that's
but on
fair.
each side.
It is a hot mess.
Huh?
It is a
It is a hot mess.
Yeah.
But that's my assumption, that the grass is growed over on, like a foot on each
Grown
side.
over, yeah.
At one time, it was 6 foot, because I don't know that they make a 4-foot paver. The basketball court
You have
needs
a question
to,
about Rindell? Oh,
But finish, I thought you were done, but I'll wait till you're.
the basketball court needs to be resurfaced or at least crack sealed. And then the workout facility, I'm asking the city council to make a decision on what direction they would like to go with that, because it desperately needs a new roof. I had Allied come out and make a repair. The repair was $2,500, but they said it's not gonna last because the roof is trashed. And the estimate I have for that from them is $61,662. It's a metal roof that's on the top, but the whole top's gotta come off. I feel this is something that the DPW could use as a training facility. Recreation could use it to do some of the programs inside the building as well. But right now, it's called the workout center, right? It's got workout equipment, but it's hand-me-down workout equipment, I think came from the fire department when they got all new stuff. Their old stuff went there. One of the guys from the DPW knew somebody from the gym. The gym got new equipment, so they donated some of the equipment. And but yeah, it's a hot mess in there. And we need to either make the decision that we're going to revitalize it or we're going to tear it down, because there's no point of paying to have the propane brought in, because there's no gas line that runs to that building, so it's got propane. So we had to purchase propane to keep the heat running. And we're paying an electric bill, and any repairs that, come up to the building. So, but we, as in the DPW, we're not allowed to use the senior activity center even for training because of the grant funding that purchased the building. So my guys have nowhere to go to train. And so when I either have to send them out somewhere to get trained, or when the trainer comes in, he's trying to train them in their lunchroom, and we got a little whiteboard like this, and, it's not very efficient.
Is that being used at all right now? I mean, is it being used by employees or?
Some of my employees use it, yes. I can't say for any in city, I doubt anybody in City Hall is, because police and fire's got their own brand new, really nice workout center. So to my knowledge, the only employees that do utilize it are some of the DPW employees.
How big is that building?
It is a 30 by 50. So 1,500 square feet, yes.
Is there a tennis court over in Rindell?
No.
Not at all?
No, it's a court there.
Bay grown over grass? There used to be, I thought.
Well, that court, I don't know what, it's got basketball posts, and I heard that they took those down because of the riffraff that
Yep.
was coming there, right?
Right.
Here's my suggestion.
I liked it.
It's turn it into a pickleball.
What's the poured cement that's there? What size is that pad?
I don't have that ish. If I had to, I don't even want to throw a number at you.
Oh, you're fine. I'll go look.
But that would be my recommendation is
it's here, yeah.
redo that and put a fence around it and make it a pickleball court, because pickleball is very popular right now.
Is the slab in good condition?
Yeah,
Overall, I mean,
yeah, it's just like the other tennis courts. I mean, it's, this one is not, it's actually not as bad as the tennis courts out here. We might be able to get away with crack sealing and then seal coating it. But, and then, of course, you would need to paint it, right? Have it painted for, pickleball. But that would be my recommendation for that. I don't see, I don't see rough people coming and playing pickleball. I could be wrong.
So what would it take to get gas to be run to that building versus propane?
I would have to look at a print to see where the gas main is actually located. If I had to guess, I would say that the gas main is located right on 13 Mile, runs down 13 Mile. And there's obviously one on Grossback. So based off of that, we would have to run a line from, 13 Mile.
Well, I would think something has been run to all the stores and everything like, Oak Ridge and everything like that. So I'm sure the lines at least come that far already. So I would think that if we had the discussion with them, that we could kind of take our line, obviously, from the building and hook it up through a connector.
That's a conversation I could have with consumers. I mean, but we would have to tap into their gas line prior to their meter, right? And that means we would have to open cut the parking lot going that route as opposed to running down the green belt. So,
Well, we should definitely at least entertain the idea and maybe get some idea of what that kind of cost would be.
okay, I can
I
do
mean,
that.
just because propane is not cheap either.
It's not.
And it's just, yeah. So I just think that might be the smarter play, depending on what the charge is.
Any more questions on Rendell?
Ms. Gelka?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment about it. I think, what's the square footage of that building?
30 by 50, so 1,500 square feet.
Okay. So it's a decent sized space. Mm-hmm. And,
Has two male, female bathrooms. Actually, they both got showers in them, so that's nice.
yeah, I think, we should explore being able to utilize that more. I mean, not just for you guys, but just, as you said, maybe you could use it for some of the Parks and Rec activities, indoor activities.
You could probably rent it out too, right? For showers, that kind of thing. I mean, if it was redone and was done up nice, make it look cute, right?
Yeah.
You, put a little money into it. Absolutely, you could.
We're spending $60,000 for a roof.
I don't think it
Really
would.
high.
I don't think it would take much either to put like a small kitchen in it, right?
Like,
there's no kitchen facility in it right now?
there's
No.
no windows in this place, so.
Well, what I'm getting at is I think we should explore other uses for this building if we're gonna invest $60,000 or $62,000 into a roof.
Absolutely. And it,
Bring gas into it, so.
well, that's my whole point. Either the city council needs to decide, okay, are we going to revitalize this building and make it a multi-purpose, useful building, or are we just going to tear it down, right? Because you can't, doesn't make sense to stay status quo in my book, right?
Right, or I mean, maybe the better idea is tear that down and build something that is more conducive to our needs.
That's an option as well. Absolutely.
Okay,
Just what we got right now is not working.
sure.
One additional thing that we'll have to consider as part of this is parking arrangements. So right now it backs up to the back parking lot of the shopping mall, which I believe is probably private property. I don't know if there was ever a shared use parking agreement that was arranged for the city to come there and park and use the facility. So we would need to investigate either that or putting some access road in somewhere and a parking lot.
So there's no parking there?
No, there is not.
There's plenty of parking there. It's just not ours.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Parking.
I would probably recommend,
Design this.
before, yeah.
Is a bunker.
Well, it's because, I can tell you why the way it is because there was the school, and, because I used to live in that neighborhood, and everybody was always up at that park. That park was very well used when I was younger. And so, and all that was very well used, and they didn't have, that everybody just parked at the school and walked. But then the schools all redid all their parks, all their play equipment. So the city wouldn't need to put any play equipment there because the schools did so much, but nobody really uses it for anything since that point. So everybody was always just using the school parking lot. But what I was going to say is before we really invest too much time, and definitely before we invest a penny in that, we would need to find out if the shopping center people would even give us access. Because I know there are some like striped parking spaces back there that people could utilize, but it would still be, if they have trucks being delivered, stuff's being delivered, it could impede their business. So, yeah, I would recommend we find that out way before we do anything about revitalizing that building, because at that point, if we can't get that, I would say tear it down. It'll just,
So would the council like me to either A, check to see about a parking agreement, or B, check to see about selling a portion of that parking lot off to us?
I think that's something we're gonna talk about today. Like,
yeah.
It's not a high priority for me at all. This is
Okay.
to me, this is a want, not a need. But
Well,
that's just me.
I agree. No, I agree with you. I'm just saying, as far as the building goes, I do think we need to make a decision relatively in the near future, because we don't want it to become an issue where it's safety,
Yeah, and it's going to be.
That I know.
You know,
That's what I
and,
gather.
and that's my whole point is the roof is trash, right? It doesn't make sense to put money into the roof if we're not going to have any kind of
Utilizing the
future,
building.
right?
Absolutely.
You know, it might as well just have DPW tear it down.
Right. And
You
that's
know.
why we want to find out, because we can't utilize the building if we cannot enter into some kind of arrangement as far as the parking goes.
Absolutely.
Let's put the horse in front of the cart and not vice versa, so
Yep.
that we can move in the right direction based on the information we get. So, Ms. Levin, can you just find out whether or not we have an agreement in place? And if not, if we could reach out to the strip mall and all the businesses over there and see if that is something that they would sign? Because before I personally would want to invest any money in that building, I would want something signed moving forward. So we're not getting like, oh, well, this changed owners, so now they said no, and now, now we're stuck with a building.
100% agree.
So that's where I'd like to see that go.
I think we can look into that and look into the option of gas and see what that
Yeah.
potential cost
Yeah.
would be and where it would come from.
I just figure we should cover all bases if we're discussing it.
Any more questions on Rundell? Next, we move on to Somerset. Somerset has a newer pathway, so we just recommend that it be seal coated. And then the cost of that is $2,280. And we've already discussed moving the play structure. That's already been taken care of. It's in, it should be done, coming up this month. Should be done by the beginning of October. As well as, some new benches being installed. And then we're currently working on getting a camera system installed in Somerset as well.
Ms. Sutherland?
What about the volleyball court? When you move the play structure, what about cost to reconstruct or move that volleyball court somewhere else in the park?
We're not putting it where the volleyball court is. The volleyball
Found
court
another
won't move. We saved it.
Oh,
It's basic, you know what it looks like, right, the park? It's just going in, it's going in the front section. So you know where the path is? When you
Yes.
come in from so if you're walking down the path from the pool,
Okay.
as soon as you cross into the park,
Oh, okay.
to your left, right there. It's going right there in between the current playground equipment and the pathway. It'll all fit there.
The specialist did it, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes. Yeah, we had Brian from Mid-States out there, and he laid it all out, and yep.
Perfect.
A win-win.
That is a win-win. Never mind then.
Ms. Baranski?
I have a question for Elaine. I don't remember approving the camera purchases. Did we approve that? I've seen many things saying we're getting cameras and different people saying that, and are we just working on the proposal to then bring forward to us, or did I miss it?
So the cameras aren't going to be a significant cost. So
Right.
that's something that we're putting in as like
Under
repair
your-
maintenance.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
and that's perfect.
And I think it's well needed. And are we putting it in, we're putting them in McKinley as well, right?
3 parks.
Okay, perfect.
McKinley, Fort Fraser, and Somerset.
The
seem
ones
to
that are
be-
getting the damage. most
Exactly.
damage.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
because
it's
It's
daily.
a regular thing.
It's a regular thing.
Oh, I know. I take a magic eraser when I go to the park with my granddaughter now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's sad. It's very sad. And when I see teenagers out there, especially when it's getting towards dusk and everything, and I've been called with lots of different fun names that I wish I could say I would wash your mouth out with soap. But I've threatened to take kids home to their parents at this point. I'm like, I'll walk your butt home or I'll call the cops. You've got a choice at this point. So I would just on a side note to all of our residents, these are our parks. They are your parks. Your tax dollars paid for these parks. Value these parks. They help increase the value of your home. And while you're out in those parks and you see misbehavior, don't be afraid to pick up and call the cops if you don't want to deal with it personally. I would encourage everybody to do that because that's the only way we're going to keep our parks, number one, safe, but number two, keep them beautiful, is to keep the children who think that they're there to damage them, let them know that we're not going to have it in this city, so.
It's gotten so bad that we had, the mayor sent an email to us over at Fort Fraser. There was a nice tree that was growing, and it was probably 1.5 inches in diameter, and they snapped it off right at the ground, so now you had a stub sticking up where somebody could trip and fall and get impaled, and, I mean, just senseless.
A never-ending problem in that park, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Any more questions on Somerset? Move on to McKinley. McKinley, this proposal on here is 9-foot path that would be going from Craig Drive until the main path. And then we recommend the rest of the path be seal coated.
Didn't we already approve that?
No, we haven't approved anything.
No, it
Besides wood chips.
was brought up. I
It was
mean,
put in for budgetary reasons, if I recall right. We just,
It's on the plan.
It's on the
All of
plan,
this is.
but yeah.
yeah. And then, so the estimated cost to seal coat the main pathway is $9,222, and then it's $22,700 to reconstruct the portion of the path from Craig Drive to the main path.
Is 9 feet what the rest of the path is?
Yes.
Okay, is that why you did 9 feet?
Yes.
That is an atrocious, that is probably one of the worst paths, is the Craig Drive to McKinley.
Yes.
But it's not a long area, so that seems really high, $22,000 for what is,
227 feet.
is it that much? Is it because you're taking it from both, instead of doing one, you're still gonna do the 2 around the tree?
2 around.
So when you come, it's got 2.
Like fork in the road kind of.
Thank you, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe we could eliminate the cost by just doing one entrance, because, I'm just thinking out loud. I use that, and it's horrible, but that's just a lot of money for a very small section.
I can,
Just thoughts.
yeah, I can revisit that.
Yeah.
I don't have I don't have the answer for that because Mike prepared this for me.
Yeah, no, and I'm not, this is more just like keep in mind, if and when we get to that, that maybe if we have it just one instead of two entrances off Craig.
It was also brought to my attention from one of the residents this week, as well as one of the Recreation Commission or committee members, the pathway going to, is it York Street? York Street. I guess there used to be a path there, and now it's grown over. So as soon as the DPW gets caught up with our emergency work that we got going on now, we'll be going back over there, mowing that section down, and then building a path with wood chips, kind of like we did over at Meadows, where it connects to Morningside. I believe it's Fairview, where it connects to Fairview. So.
Up, it gets really swampy back there.
That's what I
Yeah,
heard.
you're gonna want to build it up because, I mean, literally underwater
Is it?
in the spring whenever.
Yes, it
Yeah.
absolutely is. Poor
The
Vanya's
lake
back here.
portion of,
Vanya gets a little lake to look at before the park.
yeah, so now
At least,
why-
at least we have free wood chips, right? So
Yeah.
we can use our own wood chips for that, right? We don't got to go out and buy them for that. And then, of course, we're in the process of getting cameras put up at the bathroom areas. I mean, it's a literally, if not weekly, almost daily thing to go over there and make some type of repair. They rip the hand dryers off the wall. They literally go and take sand from the sandbox and fill the toilets full of sand. We have to take the Vector trucks out over there and jet the toilets out. I mean, you name it, we've had to do it over there. And it's ridiculous. And it takes up a lot of our time. They've kicked out we replaced the glass block over there. We've replaced the louvers where they knocked the louvers out of the doors. Where the louvers and the doors for venting purposes, they've kicked those out. Any questions on McKinley?
Any chance, like I noticed the doors on the bathrooms there are fading pretty bad, touch-up paint type of thing that we could look at? I don't think it would be a huge expense, but give it a fresh look because it's pretty faded. And
It was also brought to my attention, I wasn't aware that the little diggers, that's what they call them, but they're the little toy backhoes. I guess they're damaged over there. I know they're damaged. They broke it. Just so we're clear, this isn't from use. This is from vandalism, right? So the one over at Fort Fraser is trashed, so that's on the proposed list to replace. But evidently, we have to replace them at McKinley now, too. So. Stephens Fort Fraser, this is the big one. There's been multiple discussions with city council on what direction we'd like to go with Fort Fraser. Rob and I have been spending extensive amount of time over at Fort Fraser in the last couple weeks. We believe the best route to go is to revitalize it, is to save it, not tear it down. We are recommending, you can see my bullet points, but restore all the wood chips, which has already been done. Refill the sandboxes, which DPW has already did that. We refilled all of them. Replace all chains and hoses. We're currently doing that. And with our walkthrough from Brian from Mid-States Recreation, we had no idea that all the chains need to be replaced. It's not just a few, because there are hidden, when the chain goes through the wood beams, it's wearing inside the beam and you don't see that. You go and do an inspection, you walk by and you look, you don't see that, and the chain is actually wearing inside the beam. So it's just been recommended that we just replace them all, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna replace all the chains over there. Any rotted wood, the DPW, that can be done by DPW, replaced. There's not much. Some of the posts, the big posts that look like telephone poles, some of them are rotted on the top, on the inside, and we are going to hollow those out and fill them with concrete and then smooth them off at the top. So they'll be sturdy. There won't be any, any issues with anybody getting any splinters in them. So Brian pointed out that the swing frames needed to be straightened and realigned, and that's something DPW can do. We're going to have to put come-alongs at the top. There's metal brackets that hold the top beam across. We're going to put a come-along and pull the poles back in and then tighten them back up so that they're in the proper position. Our guys will paint, spray those metal brackets. Repair and replace benches. I got some quotes for new benches, but we've actually replaced a couple of the benches ourselves. We found we had some benches in storage that we didn't know we had. So we've already replaced some of the benches over there. Sand down any areas that may cause, splinters. That's something that can be completed by DPW. And then we recommend it. We coat in stain like a Thompson's water sealant with a stain, and spray the whole park. Everything is wood. Spray it so that the wood is being protected, right, and sealed, because it's never been done before. There's 2 dry rotted tires in the obstacle course that are going to need to be replaced. When they dry rot, they get cracks in it, and theoretically, if there was a kid that was big enough to put weight, it could cause it to pinch, or maybe collapse because they're old. They need to be replaced. Replace the old and faded slides. This may be a challenge because these slides have to come from Leatherwood Associates. That is the company that the city hired originally to purchase the equipment, and they did the city build. I learned something new from Brian. I thought a slide's a slide, right? I thought you could just hook it's wood, you put the plastic slide, you make an adapter, you put the bracket up. It doesn't work like that. The way those are designed and built, they have to be the same style slide. So Brian has reached out multiple times to Leatherwood trying to get somebody to return his calls so he can give us a quote on purchasing the slides and putting it in, and so far he's had no luck. So we do have one slide over there that we've had to, we put plywood over the top of the hole so it's blocked off so nobody can go down the slide until we can get the slide repaired or replaced. On the next page, on page 15, you'll see a list of everything that we recommend gets replaced. What you're looking at is everything that is not wood, right? That's all your swings, your bouncy toys, your little, I don't want to call them zip lines, but they're like monkey bars that you, like a zip line monkey bar that's over there. Everything there, it's $56,000, it's $56,001.18. That would replace everything there. It would pretty much look new between that and us staining everything, because you got all new wood chips now. You got all new sand. I believe that would at least buy you 10 years. That's a long way from over $1 million, right? Because that's basically what you're looking at least, if not more, to rebuild Fort Fraser.
You're talking about rebuilding Fort Fraser exactly like it is, or are you talking about something similar in place? Where'd that number come from?
That number came from Brian from Mid-States, meaning tear that down, get rid of all the wood, and replace it with pretty much the same amount of equipment that's there. Something that size. That footprint. You got it. Yep, you got it.
Okay.
Ms. Sutherland?
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies.
So that price tag just seems like too good to be true. I mean, with your current staffing, how long are you estimating that it would take to do all that work?
Well, so first and foremost, all the price tag for the 56,000, we wouldn't be doing any of that work.
Okay.
That work would all be done by mid-states.
Right.
My staff would be going in, they're already in the process of doing it. My staff would go in and be the ones going in and spraying it, right? That would be what would be taking some time. So with my current staffing levels, yeah, that's going to be hard because I have 2 guys out on medical and they've been out all summer. I don't even know if they're coming back. So I have 2 full-timers that are out. And I haven't been able to hire any part-timers, but this is definitely something that we would be able to give part-timers work to do, right? We get the Wagner power sprayer guns and turn them loose, right? With the Thompson's water sealant with the stain. I think it would really turn that place around. It would look new, especially between that and putting the new equipment in. But it's a long way from, you really can't get away from the fort. You can put new playground equipment in it, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to keep the walls all the way around because it's a footprint of the city, right? I mean, you Google Fort Fraser and it comes up, and it's not technically not a park, right? Steffens is the park. It's a playground within the park. That's how popular it is. You drive by there every day. There's cars there every single day. And Rob and I had a lady come up to us and told us how thankful she was that we, replaced the sand and we were replacing the things and the wood chips, because she says that her son is autistic and it's the only park she can take him to and turn him loose because he can't get out without her seeing. And she said the other parks, majority of parks in Macomb County are located by water. So the first thing he wants to do is run towards the water. And she's like, I can't even turn my eyes away from him. She said, here, I can sit and read a book. And, so I just think at this point, with all the other work that has to be done to the other parks, if we put about $100,000 into that park, I think we could turn it around. Between 56 of it would be going towards new equipment, the other 40-something spraying it, and replacing the chains and all that kind of stuff. We've already put the wood chips in. We've already done the sand. So that's my recommendation as well as our new supervisors. So the tennis courts.
Wait,
go ahead.
Mr. Odell?
Yeah, quick question. So Thompson Water, are you talking like the fencing all around? Are you talking the structure itself?
Anything that's wood.
Anything that's wood?
Anything that's wood would be sprayed and
Isn't
sealed.
most of that wood that's used for the fort itself, isn't that a lot of it like Trex type of?
No, no. The only thing that's Trex is what you walk on with your feet.
Okay.
Everything else is wood. So the planks, like, when you climb up and you walk across the bridge or whatever, the planks on some of the bridges is Trex. But nothing on the side, the roofs, the walls.
About painting it so it looks fresh other than water seal? Or are you
Staining. So it would be a water sealant stained together, right?
Okay.
And then for as the painting, I told my guys that whatever is painted on there, they go out and get the same color paint. They can follow the same design, right? I mean,
Okay.
paint it right back the way it is with vibrant colors. It gets faded, right?
Or we could always reach out to the high school and the art department, because I think some of those kids would like to put their spin on it.
Oh, that's a great idea too. Maybe that's a recreation activity that they have where they pick a day and they come and they paint the fort.
I think we
We just want to be careful.
Yeah.
It needs to be classic and
Yeah, Arts, yeah,
timeless.
you're right, Arts Academy in the Woods.
Art to
Yeah.
one is not always art to all.
Yeah, Arts Academy in the Woods, that's a very
Right.
good idea.
So say it's the Heidelberg project.
But it does
right?
already have, the art's already there, it just needs fresh paint.
So when I was the DPW director in Hamtramck, we had Hamtramck Disney World or Hamtramck Disneyland, and it was literally where this guy picked up all this garbage and
Yeah.
things, and right. And so city council asked me for me to define art, and I said, look, I said art is it's okay if you're okay with it being your neighbor next door, then it's art. If it's not, then it's not art.
Yeah, they would have to do it SpongeBob again, because that's, my granddaughter calls it the SpongeBob Park. That's how she knows it.
So the tennis courts, obviously at Stephens, need to be resurfaced. I don't have, at this time, as well as the basketball courts need to be restriped. That shouldn't be that much money, but they need to be painted, restriped. But the courts are gonna have to be milled, and then the fence needs either, so the fence needs to be replaced. I would leave the poles, paint the poles, and then replace the fencing portion.
Of the tennis court you're talking
Yes.
Ms. Sutherland?
What about some real benches on the basketball courts at Stephens too? Not the cinder blocks with plywood that are in the middle of them, right?
Yep, we can do that.
I think they just need to be movable for carnival time, to be able to be,
I mean, that's fine, but it's wood planks.
no, I agree. I'm just saying, nothing that's permanently in the. it's not-
Believe it or not, those are really great around a fire pit.
I mean, no doubt, but when you're driving down 14 Mile and you look at the basketball courts and it's cinder blocks and big, thick chunks of wood.
Those are very now.
Okay.
Very urban.
I'm just telling you, I've seen them in
You
a
could at
lot of
least
places.
paint the cinder blocks then.
That's true. We could. We could do them blue and gold for our Fraser colors. We can
Only
add that
under
to our art
Fraser I will
project.
accept that.
We can add that to our art project of repainting Fort Fraser.
While you're at it, why don't you just have somebody design the basketball court, or the tennis courts too?
Yeah, so the fence would have to come down anyway to do the
Right, to
courts.
milling.
Right, to mill it, to get the miller in there, so. I mean, you could leave the poles, right, but the fence itself's gotta.
I just am curious why you think that fence, I mean, I didn't look at it, I'm just looking at the photos. It doesn't look horrible, especially if you took it down and painted it and put it back up. Like the baseball diamond fences, there's no denying those need to be replaced. But the tennis court fences look pretty, you didn't give us a photo to represent a need to replace them.
On
Not saying
page
they don't, but,
16 in the corner,
okay.
upper right-hand corner. I'm looking at a black and white photo, but you have a colored one, right?
We're looking at the fence.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's not perfect, but.
But if it was painted, like the metal itself seems sturdy, but
It's rusted pretty bad. Yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes you have to weigh the cost of,
Oh, I get
the labor it is to paint that rusty fence than it is to just buy new fencing. The
we just don't have.
big
the
money,
for
the big money in
painting
fencing is the
all of it.
poles, right? So if you leave the poles,
Oh, the wire itself is not.
right, that's the least expensive thing in a fence. It's the poles and the labor to put in the poles, right? You got to put them in, concrete got to put in, you got to pull permits.
That makes sense.
Then we got the brick pavers that's in front of the wall of trees, the line of trees with the plaques on them, right by the gazebo at Stephens Park here out in the parking lot. I have budgeted to redo the pavers out in front of City Hall. I would like to do these as well. We can utilize the same pavers, but they got to be pulled up, and new bedding put in, and tamped and reinstalled. Because you can see where they're dropped, it's dropped, and it's caused a trip hazard.
So would it be more cost effective at this point just to put in cement?
You could. I would have to, get a quote to do that, but I think the whole point is.
Oh, I know it's for the ambiance of it all,
Yeah,
but,
decorate it. Now, Ms. Levin brought up a good idea for.
Stamped concrete.
That's what I was gonna say. Ms.
Oh,
Levin brought up the idea of, out front of possibly doing stamped concrete as opposed to, redoing the pavers.
Yeah.
I think the stamped concrete would look better than the pavers myself.
It's a slip hazard if you seal it, and then if you don't seal it, it looks like crap.
What's that, the
Stamped
stamped
concrete.
concrete?
I broke my leg, was in a wheelchair for 2 months because I slipped on stamped concrete. Don't do it. Exposed aggregate, there's your key. But it's expensive.
Sure. And the roof needs to be replaced on the gazebo. We've had a few storms in the last couple of months that's really did some damage to the roof on the gazebo.
is that an insurance claim?
It's not worth it.
Our deductible's a little higher.
No insurance company's gonna cover that.
No.
It's really bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when you
but I'm
when you
just
deduct for
wishful
for
thinking.
value, we're gonna owe
Wishful
them.
thinking, yeah.
And then on page 18, you can see a picture of these memorial plaques. I recommend that we do away with the memorial plaques on the 4x4 post. Any that we currently have be transferred to a cement pad that is countersunk on the ground in front of the tree. A lawnmower can drive right over the top of it. And the one that's in the center of the landscaping, we would take that one and put on a nice stone decorative rock or whatever, since it's in the middle of the landscaping. But as you can tell, it looks like a beaver got a hold of the bottom of it.
It's called the weed whippers,
Exactly.
yeah. That was the problem with all the wood signs.
Right.
And they didn't have the collars on the bottom, and our guys didn't want to take the time to go around it very nicely, because they were in a hurry, and they weed whipped the crap out of all the wood, so. They make those collars now, for a reason.
Yeah, they still look tacky.
I don't disagree, I'm just saying.
So, both baseball diamonds need a lot of attention. Fencing needs to be removed and replaced. I would leave the poles and paint them with silver paint. The backstops need to be replaced. The bleachers need to be replaced. But most importantly, we need to purchase a tiller attachment for the tractor we have with a 3-point hitch for those baseball diamonds to be taken care of properly. Been doing this for 30 years. I started my career actually taking care of baseball diamonds for Brownstown Township, and they're supposed to be multivated, and they use a rake here. The rake doesn't work. That's why when you go to play ball, the field is hard when the ball hits it and it goes flying, because the fields aren't being multivated.
What's a piece of equipment like that normally cost? Do you have an idea?
Yeah, probably, if I had to guess off the top of my head, you can probably get one for a couple grand, $2,000, maybe $3,000 for attachment for a back
To go
of.
behind the new toys we got.
Yep. Yeah, but it's something that they just had that mud day or the water day or whatever, and our guys tilted that area up. We borrowed one from Clinton Township to do that because we didn't have one. But it's definitely something we would utilize quite a bit, not just with the baseball diamonds. I mean, there's areas that we go to clean up. If we had one, we could tilt it up and level the ground out,
Like with our volleyball pits?
With
With the volleyball pits?
absolutely, absolutely. Yep.
Because I know the one at Somerset's kind of like, eh.
You see on page 20, you can see the picture and the conditions of the bleachers. It's definitely something that needs to be replaced. And at the bottom of the page, there's a picture of the inside of the concession stand, looking for direction from city council on what they want to do with that.
It's attached to the bathrooms too, right? Is it concession?
Yes, there's,
So the concession stands in the front area, the bathrooms are in the back,
Yes.
correct, by the ball fields?
yes, by the soccer fields.
Or
Yeah, they're,
soccer / one of the fields is right there, okay.
Yep. And then on page 21, basically, that gives my recommendation on what order the priorities are on what needs to be done, 1 through 20.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for doing all that.
Yeah, this is like
Welcome.
exactly, I think, what we were looking for. So thank you so much. This is very, very helpful.
Welcome.
Yeah, so the one recommendation I would have this, and I'm going to steal it from you because you gave this advice, so I'm going to steal it. This becomes the working document for the city that as needs develop, it's added to this as things are done. They're noted that we've done them.
And
So
then
then, bingo, so we've got that template, because I know this was a lot of work for you. And then we can say, oh, look, we just did the pass in this, and, you know, and whoever's sitting here after doesn't have to go dig out old minutes to find things. So it's a huge starting point for a very significant part of our city's assets. And Dana taught me about that, so I want to give her credit.
Ms. Kauka?
Thank you. Mark, I don't have any questions for you, but do we know, like, roughly what we spent on the other parks? Was it like, was it like
386,000,
Total.
What?
386,000
That
total
was total, right?
for the 3 parks.
For 3 parks. Okay, so we're talking about $125,000 to $135,000 per park that we've spent already. In other words, if you divided it up by 3.
Yeah, it was like 80, 120, 150.
Right.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Forest was very small, obviously.
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, given that, I mean, I definitely want to see, you know, significant improvements in Fort Fraser and in Stephens. And I mean, it looks super dilapidated and, you know, I would be willing to talk about getting a plan together for, if we can't do it this time, but the next budget cycle to put all of our resources into that, because it really, I mean, I know there's things that have to be done on some of these other parks, but I really think that Stephens and Fort Fraser, I mean, we could really have this rocking and rolling, and we could have a lot of fun next summer. You know, you could actually have leagues again, and I mean, now we're kind of getting on the other side of COVID and whatnot. Things are going back to normal. I actually was like, hey, I think I'm gonna start doing depths in my office again. So,
What I would like to do is come to city council this next meeting with my proposal from Brian to get approval, right, to get approval to purchase, to have them come and replace the playground equipment at Fort Fraser.
sure. I would like to see us, I mean, for me, the main things are if we can get leagues to come in and rent those diamonds next spring, that would be super great, right? I mean, I know that we don't have the actual numbers on what that would cost, but that's money revenue coming back into the city, right? That the gazebo is an aesthetic thing, and I think that should get replaced, get a quote for that as well, because that looks terrible. And then the brick pavers. And I agree, I mean, maybe we could do stamped concrete but not seal it, or we could do maybe decorative brick pavers and kind of do a mix, so we're not necessarily, you know, having to redo the whole thing again.
The gazebo, I won't even have to come back in front of city council, because I can tell you the amount is not going to be over Miss Levin's threshold. So, I mean, that's something that I can get a quote for and take care of that through the city manager.
I just don't, I mean, if you feel like that's, yeah, you can do that. I mean, I think that those are the most pressing things, because I think we've let Fort Fraser, I mean, we've done things for Fort Fraser, but I think we've just kind of let it, you know, I think we really do need to step up and do that. That would be my recommendation, that's where our resources should go for the next 8 months, so we can get it ready to go, because, and the other thing too that we haven't talked about here, but has been on my radar for the last 6 years that I've been here, is that we really do need an actual recreation facility, something that we can actually have kids kind of gravitate to, a place. And And I think there was a lot of miscommunication with regard to the senior housing and using that facility and all that. But now that and I don't even know where we stand with any of that, but I do think that, I'm not gonna be here, but, that's something that should be looked into because, and it doesn't have to necessarily be just geared towards recreation, but you can have meetings there and things that you can do and, just an area that you could do, whatever it is you guys wanna do. I mean, I don't know, but I just think that we need a dedicated space for that stuff in the inside that we can, work at, go to,
Utilize.
utilize, there you go.
Mr. Odell?
So I agree with Ms. Kolk. I think Steffens Park is where the majority of our focus needs to be over the next couple of years. To make it the center point of Fraser, a destination park that all citizens can use and enjoy. There's three major things out I would personally like to see, and some discussions with Fraser First and whatnot is possibly building like it's called a music pavilion or performance shell or band shell. There's a couple different names for it. It's like an outdoor space where you can use it for outdoor concerts, movies in the park, talent shows, elementary graduations, plays in the park, outdoor exercise classes. There's just a lot of unique things that could be multi-use that would be beneficial to all residents in Fraser. Being on the board with Fraser First, we've already voted to commit up to $40,000 to build such a facility and possibly have another $50,000 from another charity that could go into this. My guess is the cost would be somewhere between $300 to $450, depending on how many bells and whistles you want to do it. But it would be a space that we can use for many, many different things. Make the park a destination for all citizens. That's something I think would be beneficial to the residents and put Fraser on the map a little bit more. The benefits of that also is it's low maintenance. There's not air conditioning or anything like that. It's outside facilities, has parkings and bathrooms already there. Like I say, it's central to our city. Another thing I would like to see is I think Steffens Park could benefit from a walking path as well, a properly done walking path. It's huge. We could utilize it to go around, the basketball courts, around the tennis courts, and then down the middle where kind of the outfield of the second, ballpark goes. So that's something I think would be beneficial because people want to come walk to the park, have outdoor events at the park, Fort Fraser. And then third, with Fort Fraser, the cost is tempting if we can do all those things to fix it, but I don't think long-term Fort Fraser is going to have to be replaced. My kids love Fort Fraser. It was a community build. There's a lot tied to that, and I respect that, but I don't think that long-term, we should be looking at eventually doing something different. I'm not saying right away, but I'm saying within the next 3 to 5 years, work on replacing that.
I agree. The only thing is, you got to do something now between that time and
I
the
understand.
5 years, right?
Right, and not your fault, but it was not kept up like it should have been. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
we would get another 15 years or more out of it, but it hasn't been. I just don't want it to look like we're putting duct tape on a fender to keep it going, because everybody likes the car. It was the first car they ever bought, but they're trying to what do you say, put lipstick on a pig. I'm not saying Fort Fraser is a pig, but I'm just saying the analogy is that you're trying to make something last longer than where it's safe or that it's past its useful life. Most park equipment doesn't last 30 years. It just doesn't. And a lot of, like you say, a lot of it's wood. Wood deteriorates, and I think it's something that we can do maybe the fixes that you're talking about for now, but we should be looking 3 to 5 years down the road at replacing it with something newer, fresher, more ADA compliant, more accessible, and things of that nature. But going back to the music pavilion, I think that's something where if we can get over $100,000 worth of free funds to help make, I think that's something the whole city could use and enjoy, and it has a lot of purposes. It's not just for kids, it's not just for adults, it's not, it's something that everybody can utilize. And that's my thought on that.
Ms. Sutherland?
So there's a couple of things that I think that we probably should like table and then do also like sooner than later to prevent the water damage. So like sealing the path at Pompo, right? Like that should be done.
And Somerset, the new ones.
Somerset, the new path, getting those done ASAP. Probably parking lotting the fitness equipment at Blanky because there is no real accessibility to that park. Boris,
I'm sorry, did you say not do that?
Yeah,
I was just
not-
trying to keep a tab here.
yeah, not do that. But then you had said that the rehabilitation of Steffens, it could get another 10 useful years out of it though, right? Safely, in the work. So I mean, to me, if we can get another 10 years out of it safely and it's going to look great, I mean, to me, that's not putting lipstick or perfume on a pig. That's rehabbing. I mean, that's being like both financially and environmentally friendly. So I mean, we could in 3 to 5 years start talking about the cost or replacing it in sections at that point. So we're being proactive. But if we can get 10 years out of it, I mean, that makes the most sense to me. I was shocked when I saw that number, and actually my visceral reaction was, there's no way. So, I mean, I'm just extremely impressed. And if that can get another 10 years, I think that would be the way to go.
Well, the biggest thing you got to take in consideration is, all the equipment would be new.
Yeah.
Right? It's the wood, right? The only wood that's actually rotted is like at the top of the swings, the top piece of wood that goes across the top. And I'm not talking about the weight-bearing portion. I'm talking about just like the top 2x6 that goes across, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's rotted. That needs to be replaced. Some of the posts have rot in the center. Okay, we can auger those out and fill those in with concrete. It's going to be solid.
Yeah.
So but what has to be replaced, regardless if city council, whatever they decide to do, all your chains got to be replaced, right? They're just wore, right? And it's going to be a safety issue. So, but once you replace all the chains, you replace all of the playground equipment, and that's what we're proposing that we do. We've already did the wood chips. We've already did the sand. All you got left is to preserve the wood.
And honestly, sanding it, staining it, sealing it, I mean, it's going to just protect it. And if it's not that bad that you can do that, it just makes sense. And yeah, the tire swing, my daughter has pushed me on that tire swing, so I know what you mean about it hollowing out in there.
Yep.
Now it makes sense. I shouldn't have been on there. But, yeah, I survived. Okay, that was all.
Ms. Bransky?
I had written down before we started this, and I wrote my priorities, which Fort Fraser, tennis courts, the softball, Steffens Park, really Steffens Park, definitely. It is been neglected. I am in favor of saving Fort Fraser in any capacity. It is Fraser, and no disrespect to McKinley, because that is a different part of Fraser, but that is the Fraser I knew. When I came here, we were at every fundraiser, and I know just when it was mentioned to tear it down, the phone calls I got. And $100,000, 10 years, that is automatic no-brainer done, and I think it's gonna be even better because it is gonna have the fresh coat of paint, plus the wood chips, plus everything else. My bigger concern, kind of as we're talking about all this, is the one issue that is, right, we've got McKinley and we've got repair costs and we don't have a budget for it. And then we have Fort Fraser and McKinley, and so going to the pavilion. I don't want to start something new until we can fix and have a plan for what we have. Because as cool as that is, it's like, well, that 50 grand could go towards sealing the paths or replacing the equipment or whatever else. Or it's real, I'm sorry, not, the expectation from the city would be $250 or $300,000. So I can't buy into that yet. The concept, absolutely, because it would be really cool to have the pavilion. I don't know where you're thinking, because my one issue, I know we talked about it, the fireworks are back there, so we can't.
Not that far back.
Okay, because I don't want to not have the fireworks, or have the fireworks and have no more pavilion. So to me, the priorities are to fix what we have, the logical ones. Certain ones, we're not going to replace past yet because we don't have the funding for it, clearly, but let's get Fort Fraser and Steffens Park to be as beautiful as Somerset and all the other parks, so at least we've got another one that really is the focal point. So that's my thoughts.
Ms. Sutherland, just for clarification, what did you say about parking lot at Blanky? I know,
There really is no parking lot for Blanky.
right, so was that one of your priorities, was to get a parking lot or not?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
I'm just saying because it's not accessible as far as adding the additional equipment in there, as much as it, may be nice to have, if I think about the greater good for the majority of residents, it would be to put the money in Steffens.
Okay.
And not, because I think it was like $100,000 or something like that for that equipment.
How does everybody feel about putting the swings in there, though? Is everybody okay with the swings or no swings?
I'm not in favor of any equipment there right now.
Same.
Benches. I'm in favor of benches.
Benches,
That's what I was talking about,
I know you're talking about the swinging, I know you're talking
Yeah,
about
the
swinging
swinging
benches.
benches.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
I was
No,
thinking
no,
What
like
you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah,
No, he was talking
these
about
are
the
for
swinging
adults.
benches.
They're
Got it.
swinging benches for adults.
Yeah.
There's 3 of them.
Basically like a front porch.
Front porch swing, right, that's basically what they look like on a bigger level.
What was the price tag on that again?
$5,000 a piece. $18,448.22.
Oh, yeah, no,
That's it.
I'm in favor of a regular bench.
How many was that?
3.
3.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's nice,
Ask
but
for that.
there's too many other,
Yeah, I'm thinking they'd rather
Higher need.
upgrade that path than have swinging benches, which are cool. They are, but yeah. But Ms. Levin, go ahead.
One thing that we haven't talked about with Steffens is the parking lot. So we have a pretty large parking lot that is in a serious state of disrepair. We've got some that's gravel, some that's asphalt, and it's all falling apart, and that would be a significant cost to fix that as well. And I think it's pretty necessary, if you're talking about cleaning up that park, that needs to be addressed as well.
What?
Back that way.
Oh, you're talking about like where we used to do the ice skating and stuff. Oh, okay, yeah, because it's always been gravel. So that's why I'm going, wait a minute.
Well, at
because
one
we did
time,
the
it was asphalt at one time.
Well,
It hasn't been since I've been alive.
can't it just be graded and like leveled off and?
It can be
It's still gonna
whatever
be
you
an
want it to
expense.
be. It
It's
can
gonna be
be whatever you
expense.
want it to be. I mean,
Right.
that's why we're having this discussion. If you want it gravel, you want it asphalt, you want it, we can put millings down, asphalt millings.
Thus the confusion in my face, because I'm like, no, because we did the cement and it looks very good going up to the fort. And I was very confused by that statement because I'm like,
by the concession stand and over there.
yeah, nope.
Yes,
Yeah.
that whole,
I mean,
Where people park for the parade and for the and for the,
baseball diamonds, right?
baseball diamond.
I missed that ice skating rink.
That's what I said. It used to be a skating rink during the winter.
We don't have cold enough days for any
We
sustain.
have not had those lately. You're
We
all
could have a lake right there. I bet you it's probably flooded. Patrice, what's your thoughts?
I definitely am about McKinley and Fort Fraser, and I'm definitely about sealing the 3 new paths. I do think that we should get, and I would really like to see it put into the budget every year for park maintenance. And since you said it's like every other year of sealing, I would like to see that kind of put into the budget preparation. And honestly, as far as our parks in general, especially the new ones, if you could include that every year, just your recommended maintenance to keep everything going. Because as we know, this city neglected its parks for at least 2 decades, for sure. Now that we've invested all this money, I don't want it to be that, oh yeah, we threw all this money in there and now we're just gonna sit back and whatever happens, happens. The biggest flaw for every city council, and this isn't a dig on city councils, this is just in general, is that there was no forward thinking about our infrastructure, about the pensions, about our parks. There was no, let's put money away for the future. It was, we've got a lot of money right now, especially during the 80s. Let's spend it. How can we spend it? Especially going into a recession, in general, just to be a responsible human being, we should be thinking about what is coming next, not what necessarily is going to be here when we're here. I'm talking about the next generation that wants to come into Fraser and make it a home. And we need to be proactive instead of always reactive. And I know the entire time I've lived in this city, which is almost my entire life, it seems to, since I've been an adult, we'll put it that way, it's been reactive and not proactive. And we really need to be proactive and start thinking about what we can do to put away money for tomorrow while we're fixing today. And I know the fixes are always going to get more and more expensive. That's just the reality that we live in. So, but I definitely think that we should put it on the agenda for our next meeting, as far as at least getting the paths sealed, the new ones, so that we can start that process now, and then moving forward, have it on an every other year cycle as recommended. But yeah, Fort Fraser, I'm all about retaining Fort Fraser, the footprint that it is, that's what I had said before, and then just rehabbing it.
So I will definitely be able to get an ARF, the agenda request form, for the stuff for Fort Fraser for the September meeting. Not going to happen for the seal coats.
Okay.
Because that number is the estimate from the AEW. That's not me getting the quotes or the
Right.
bids to do that, right? So for me to do that, there's no way
You
I'm
need
going
to do
to.
an RFP.
We have
Yeah.
to do a motion, so we'll talk about it.
Right.
Right. at
So
the
it,
council meeting.
right. So
Be
you,
prepared to go to-
right, exactly. You give me the directive that you want me to do that, I'll go out and I can do that now. I'm just letting you know I'm not going to have those until the October meeting.
Perfectly fine.
But
Okay.
there's probably no chance they're going to get sealed before the winter, right? Which is going to leave them exposed.
Not necessarily.
I don't have an answer for that because I don't know how busy they are. I just know that I'm not going to be able to either A, get an RFP out, or B, get 3 quotes before, especially when I'm out of town next week, to make the next meeting. I'm just letting you know that.
Next meeting's in 2 weeks.
Right. So,
This is a special meeting. I know, that's,
Yeah, you're right, it's two.
I know.
but I already have the
Not that I'm
quote.
counting.
So I already have the quote from Mid-States for Fort Fraser, so I can rock with that for the next meeting. So right now, I have Fort Fraser, I have sealing the pass, I have the gazebo roofs, I have the paver stones. I need to know.
And the tennis court.
That was my next question. Are we, the majority of you wanted me to get quotes or put out we'll probably put out an RFP for that.
Yeah.
For the tennis courts, and that's,
Because they're utilized.
Right.
So
So-
I don't want to take something like that away from our residents, because I see people in there all the time.
and so that's for Stephens and Pompo, correct?
Yeah, you might as well, because
Yeah.
it was nothing, I mean, I could tell you exactly what it was, but when they're here, just like the pass, right? Every path we can do,
Cost effective.
yeah.
And that would include the hockey court as well, because they gotta be done together, right? Basketball court, we good with having it restriped?
Yes.
Striped, yeah. Now, is that something that we should be sealing regularly as well? Because I can tell you, since that was put up, I don't ever remember it being sealed.
What are we talking about?
The basketball courts.
Here.
Here. You know how we moved them from?
No, I know,
back
but
there
like,
to over
people
there?
don't seal their cement driveways, it's a cement slab, why would we seal it?
He was saying that it is
I
recommended.
know, that
it's
is a
sealed.
question for him. I was looking at you, but I was.
Oh, I'm like, I actually do see some of my
So
neighbors.
concrete
sealing their
does
new
get
stuff.
sealed. It depends on the concrete and what it's used for, but it being a basketball court, I would get it sealed.
It's so old at this point, I think
And
that's just a waste of
the
money.
the stripes and stuff, is that just paint that's put on there?
Yeah, just paint.
Just paint, okay.
I just want to see a quote for it.
Yeah, I
It
just,
can't hurt. It doesn't mean we're going to approve it.
no.
Yeah.
I just hate waste, to me, that I'm voting no on that.
Well, that's fine.
It's
Like
20
I said,
years
it's
old
just
at
good
this
to
point,
know.
and every summer, the carnival stuff goes on it, so.
Still seems like it's in good shape, though.
No, my point is like, as soon as you put those things over it, there's all that sealant gone,
That's probably true.
so.
All right,
One of those
Miss-
things I see used all the time, too.
Oh, no, yeah.
Oh, always.
And it's all that making Stephens attractive,
right.
but in good ways.
Thank you. So are we in agreement then that the tennis courts are going to be resurfaced and repainted along with the fence? Is that what we're talking
Quotes.
about, or are
We're
we
gonna-
just
We're getting
talking?
quotes.
I'm getting
We're just
quotes.
We're gonna
I
direct
mean,
next
just like the
time.
parameters or.
Well, first, we're gonna listen
Yes.
to the public, obviously, and then at the next meeting, we would be voting
sure.
on whether to,
I just want to get a parameter because
Yeah.
it dovetails into the next thing I want to talk about.
So I'm not sure that I would have to check with Mike, but I'm not sure that the RFP would include the fence with the same company or not, because it may be a fencing company, right? More than likely, I would have DPW take the fence down,
Okay.
right? And then I would have a fencing company after, because we would leave the poles, obviously, then we would paint the poles. Then I would have a fencing company come in and put the new fencing around after
Well,
the,
obviously, yeah.
what,
and the fencing
But-
company might do the backstops too.
right, exactly,
That would-
exactly. Yep.
And so then the next thing I have is then how do you feel about getting a quote for the fencing and the bleachers for the ball diamonds?
I took your steam away. That's what I just said.
Did you say
I
that?
literally just said that. I read your mind.
Thank you. I don't know what we
It
said.
makes sense.
What did you say? mean,
I said, oh, if you're gonna do that fence, it makes sense to have.
Get the ball
Do
diamonds.
it all.
I get the ball diamonds. Good. Thank you.
I saw where you were going.
Okay. Fair enough.
I jumped on.
Well, again,
I
volume.
just want to try to utilize them again because and you can tell they haven't been used in about 3 years.
They're used intermittently.
They haven't been given any love in a long.
Yes, they haven't been given any love, but I see people out there quite often, actually.
Is the council okay with me purchasing a attachment for the rototiller attachment, because that can be approved by Ms. Levin without?
Is it in your budget?
Yes, there would be money in the budget to purchase that, yes.
If it's in your budget and it's within her discretion, that's between you and her. So
Okay.
I don't want to get into that minute detail.
Okay.
I want you to put them in the volleyball
I'm
courts and
good.
make them nice.
That's a good plan.
Yeah, I like it. I think it was a really productive time. We'll see
Okay.
what-
Does anybody else on council have anything else they'd like?
I do have one other thing I
Okay,
want to say.
Ms. Kelka?
So we were talking about sealing, but I only saw one quote for Pompo to seal that walkway. Is that all we're talking about, is just sealing that walkway?
No.
We're
No,
talking-
there's one,
Meadows,
there's one for,
Yeah,
yeah.
So is it, then we're looking at an additional amount for
The other
each of
two.
those different,
Yeah,
in comparison to the quote we have for Pompo. In other words, we can gauge what we have for Pompo, that's what it's gonna cost.
there's a quote for each one.
Oh, there is?
Last page.
Yeah.
Oh.
Each
The
one
lowest
has a,
number.
Got it, okay.
yeah,
All right.
each one has a quote for each park.
Yep, I see it.
There should be Pompo, Somerset, and McKinley for the seal coating.
I see it. The 9,200, the 2,200, that's what you're.
Yes, and that's not just so we're clear, that's not a quote. That's an estimate.
Yeah,
That's an engineer estimate, right?
You'll get the
It-
quotes, though.
Right, I'll get the quotes. It could be a little higher, could be a little lower, but that's going rate,
Roughly.
right?
Got it, okay, I was just looking.
That would be a budget number, right? If we were going to budget to,
Yep.
Right.
This is what we wanted, so we know whether it's worth even pursuing.
right.
Do you guys want to talk about the plaques?
No.
That was that's one of the things I was gonna ask you before we were done, because it's a maintenance nightmare for us, right? They fall over, they get knocked down, and then everybody wants us to replace it, or, the guy's got a, weed whack around it, they look bad.
Well, I don't think there's any harm in getting a quote to see what it would cost. I mean,
There's not a quote. We don't need a quote.
You
I
do
just
it.
need permission to make that policy, because I'll send my guys out. My guys can build a little frame out of 2x4s. You put Quickcrete in it. When it's almost dry, you take the metal plaque and you push down in it, and then you dig the area
think
out in
that's a
front of the
great-
tree and you countersink it.
Right.
Right in front of the tree.
I would
Have
say go
policy
for it.
otherwise.
Then you can
I didn't know
run
we
right
set a
over
policy
it.
about
I
how
just
we-
brought it up because I know I'm gonna get flack from some people. Where did my plaque go, right?
Right.
You know.
Well, it's still there.
it's
Just
still
look
there.
down.
It's-
So we'll take the bullet.
We'll take,
Got it.
yeah. My personal thing is I'd say do it because that's what they're doing in cemeteries these days too. They don't want the raised monuments. It's too much to maintenance, so they do the
Absolutely.
flat ones.
Absolutely. And the other cities are doing this as well.
That is a motion. I make a motion that we go ahead and
Second,
change up how we have our,
we'll make it so it's in the ground.
I just think that's better all the way around.
I disagree if it's a maintenance issue
Yeah,
and it's no expense,
little expense.
well,
Yeah,
within their.
Minute.
expense. We don't have to add any extra money.
No.
yeah.
Oh,
I would
very
think that,
little.
I just think
Said
that's
I'm not spending
smarter.
any money today.
Actually, we would be saving money long-term, right?
Long-term, yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Because you're not
valid.
replacing,
Okay.
yeah, because you're not replacing the poles constantly, you're not
And
man hours.
I'm paying the guy, exactly, I'm paying the
man
guy
hours.
to go out there to do that
Yeah,
constantly, right?
absolutely. Just out of curiosity, because it was brought to my attention, is there, that concession stand, that's not really big, is it?
There's a photo.
Define,
No, I know. No, I meant big as far as like, could we utilize that building for recreational things?
no.
What size is that building? is what you're-
Okay, that's
No.
what I thought so, but since, yeah.
No,
I
it's,
just thought-
that concession stand would be a concession stand.
Okay, that's what I thought, but, yep, throw it out there.
Did you make a motion?
I did make a motion.
And I seconded it.
Yep, oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. All in favor?
Yeah. You gotta go out to the.
Oh, well, anybody that would like to speak from the public participation on the, putting the plaques in the ground instead of above ground? Come on up. Oh, nope, wait, nope.
Laura Lessig, 15201 Fairview. You were talking about the plaques at Steffens. Is this the plaques for all the parks? Because I believe there's some in Pompo.
Yeah,
All
all
of
the
them. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify.
All the parks. Because otherwise, we're going to continue to have the same problem. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Mark, go ahead and put them in the ground.
Send them
There you go. Put them in the ground.
7:45 at the
Nope. Well, yeah.
No, I'm teasing.
Oh, yeah. So, and any other further conversation from council? Any other questions for Mr. Ragsdale? We haven't done citizen, 1 second, Deanna, we're doing there. We're getting to citizen participation, I promise. I just want to make sure. So we're all good, everybody? All right. Citizen participation.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you so much. But stick around because we might have some questions for you. Don't be running around yet.
Deanna Reiner, 15569 Luxembourg. I just have a question for Mr. Ragsdale. We had a family business on Hayes for my entire life, just about. We use slag. I don't know what your thought is with using slag for like the parking lot out here by the ball diamonds and stuff. Like I say, my dad was pretty good and efficient, and once you put the slag down, get some rain on it, it becomes like a hard surface, and we barely ever, we had a lot of trucks and cars go through, and it held its, the borders, and we didn't have potholes and this and that. So I don't know what your feeling is about slag, but I just thought maybe it's another consideration. It worked years ago for our family, but it was just a thought, maybe save some money with paving.
We utilize slag right now on the baseball diamonds, is what we do with the baseball diamonds. If the city council does not want to go the route of actually paving it, then what I would recommend is we just use asphalt millings because we get those for free. When we do our paving projects, right, they gotta haul those millings somewhere. We can just have them, dump them in the parking lot, and we can level
over
them
'em.
off with, the loader.
You know how that machine digs up everything?
You know,
They
the
have all
milling-
that, yeah.
So it's,
Yep,
if it's free,
right. It's ours, right? So
I'm gonna tell you right
And
now,
it's
I'm not willing
recycling.
to pave that parking lot.
Me either, but and it's recycling.
Yeah,
then we can use asphalt millings,
for free,
right?
make it look pretty.
Anybody else?
As a matter of fact, I've had construction companies call me and see if I wanted the asphalt millings. So next
Hot diggity.
call, I can say, yeah, we'll dig them.
Parking lot in the County.
Hi, my name is Marie Salufo. I live at 31640 Cyril Avenue. I didn't look at the budget, but how much money do we have this year to spend on all these projects?
We have about $100,000, I believe, we put away for capital improvements. So
For the parks?
well, we specifically at the beginning of the session did discuss Fort Fraser in general. So we had allocated that money in the direction of Fort Fraser, but this doesn't mean it's spent. It just means that's our thought process right now.
Okay. The next question is, with all the vandalism that we're having in our parks, it doesn't make sense to make any more new improvements until we get some security. One, for our children, and two, for the assets that we have, our properties. It just doesn't make sense to not move forward on the cameras.
Oh, we are.
And so.
Yeah, we are. He's just getting them together, so.
But I think maybe all the parks should have cameras. What about the trail? What happens if somebody got hurt or somebody was assaulted on Harrington's Trail? You know?
It's not that easy because you have to have electric, you have to have Wi-Fi, there's a lot that goes into the camera system, so.
Oh, go ahead.
No. It's not that for cameras on the trail, it's not, it's doable, it's just not that easy, and it's not that, it's very expensive because you have to have electric, right, for the cameras, and you have to have internet or Wi-Fi to relay the cameras back to City Hall or the DPW to do that. So right now, our focus is Somerset, Fort Fraser, and McKinley because that seems to be where the vandalism is. I've been here 2.5 years, and knock on wood, we haven't had any vandalism in any of our other parks. But that seems to be because they are neighborhood parks, right? And the people in the neighborhood, you live next door to the park, you're not going to let that happen, right? Fort Fraser's out on an island, McKinley's an island, and
Somerset's on the main street.
Somerset's on the main street, but at the same time, it's kind of tucked back, so those are our problem areas.
Okay, and the other concern that I have is, the other concern that I have with Fort Fraser is for years, we've always had a water problem over there. Half of the park has got puddles. Yesterday, when I went to the VFW dinner, I noticed that all around the fort was just a water puddle. And I don't understand why we've never taken care of grading off that property so it's not underwater so much when it rains. It would make sense to pull the water away from the park area so the kids don't have a problem and the wood doesn't deteriorate in the fort. It's just something that I thought of, and I did take a ride over to Rindell Park today, and I was really shocked. You know, we're talking about parks, we're talking about how we can make them good and maintain. The trash can was overflown. There was garbage all over the property, and I don't know if that's DPW's job to go over there and check on all the garbage cans or what, or maybe it's just missed. But you know, if we're gonna put money into our parks, let's make sure that they're clean, you know, and taken care of too. And I understand, you know, there's a shortage of people, but maybe we should reconsider that because the residents deserve the certain services too. So, I mean, that's my thought.
No, absolutely. Thank you.
Yep.
As far as, but Ms. Lufo is right about Fort Fraser. There, like, it really is, especially over by the VFW. When it rains, there's a moat.
Is that the VFWs?
No.
No.
No, that's our property. So I don't know if we've ever thought of drain tiles in there.
So
Or-
Rob and I, again, have been spending a lot of time over there the last couple of weeks, and we both agree that we need to put in some kind of French drain over there, some corrugated pipe.
Yeah.
To run the water out, because it's very low, the water, especially the area around the hand monument area, it's very low there.
There's several areas.
Right.
Yeah.
So, two things need to happen. We need to put in some type of French drain, and then we need to bring the elevation up. It's low.
Yeah. I would just think it would probably be less expensive to put in a drain system at this point, but I don't know. Can you at least look into that and kind of like give us info on that?
Yep.
I would like to.
It's probably something we'll just do.
They just do that.
Right.
Okay.
We just do it. Right. We
All right,
do
well,
that
I didn't
all
know
the
if that was going to be a large expense and you need, okay.
No.
Then, yeah, I would say definitely.
time. No, just man hours.
Which you have none of right now.
Right.
So, okay, so we can hopefully, yes,
Tiles is their expertise.
let's just hope that by springtime, you guys will be
Anyone
up
wants
and,
to come work part-time for the DPW, we are hiring.
and we upped the wage
Yeah,
considerably.
we are hiring.
I'm sorry,
That's
what
the
was
man
it?
to talk to right there.
Yeah. Okay, was there anybody else who, all right, come on down.
Hello, I'm Trevor McCullough. Actually, I live on the border, but I'm looking to help conduct business here, and then primarily with the baseball fields.
You still have to give your address, though.
Sorry.
Thank you.
14621 Sundew Lane, Sterling Heights. So I'm in that interesting part of Sterling Heights. It's right on the border, so I actually come here more often for, bringing my kids to Fort Fraser and whatnot. Originally, Little League used to be in the borders here, and this is where we had to play Little League, but then that collapsed, unfortunately, and went to Clinton Valley Little League. But right now, we're looking to do, my wife had actually proposed Fraser Heroes Baseball League, which would be independent of Little League, with our own insurance and whatnot. It would be nonprofit, volunteer-driven, but to try and help bring baseball back into Fraser itself. In addition to that, we actually have our own tournament team, too, that is also nonprofit, volunteer-driven, no salaries collected, to try and give competitive level baseball as well for people that can't afford 20 to 30 grand per kid per year. So I don't think competitive baseball should cost that much. Some of the things that I don't know if Mark ever got the report, too, is that where I've made observations on the fields themselves, as well as like some of the upgrades that the fields could use. So right now, like the posts probably should be replaced with a different style post, but it's a little bit nitpicky on that part. I can give more details on that. But in addition to that, additional posts for the different base distances, as well as acquiring a mobile mound, so that way you can put the mound at different distances. Or when you want to do softball, remove the mound entirely, because softball is all flat ground. So that way you can have multi-purpose for it. I don't know if the lights are functioning, but the lights would be great too, to make sure that if those are functioning, you can start doing later on events as well.
Pretty sure they are, because I've seen them on quite a few times.
Okay, I haven't seen them on in recent years.
They're on after the fireworks usually.
Yeah.
Yep.
First,
Okay.
So they work.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I've seen them on a couple few times, so.
Got it. And then the one concern would be though with the fair itself is you would incur additional costs for having to repair the field after the fair comes about, because there's a lot of heavy equipment that is sitting on, I think it's considered Field 1, which is the one that's closest to us. So I know Mr. Odell I've spoken to him in the past on it. He had recommended actually trying to create another field entirely on the other side of the concession stand. I'm not sure if that would be in budget though, for the immediate future, but that is one consideration. But yeah, basically, my idea is to come here and say that there is interest in actually bringing baseball back. So, and that we have a few individuals back here that have come with me today, so that we can show support too. And there's also a few people that actually do live in Fraser itself, our citizens that are a part of our group too. So, We're not just invading.
We let outsiders in. We are
Excellent.
inclusive.
Yes. And so that's where I'm at to that regard, is just to make sure that there is interest in that. We're here to help drive that as well from a volunteer perspective.
I like it, yeah. I know that several of us have played softball and baseball and t-ball and,
Yep.
yeah. And I'm sure a lot of residents would be happy to not have to put their kids in travel teams to go everywhere and that expense.
Yeah, so with our more competitive level baseball, so we call ourselves Motown Heroes. And so we were thinking that it would be kind of like a parallel from Fraser Heroes and Motown Heroes, and that Motown Heroes, if you want more, you can get more. And of course, the way that we run Motown Heroes is that it's all a per cost basis. Like, you know, what you put in is what you get back on your team. So strictly speaking, the expenses are incurred for, like, say, you want to do uniforms, it's going to be X amount. If you want to do indoor training, it's X amount. If you want to do the outdoor stuff, it's X amount. Field maintenance, and so things get, you know, budgeted and calculated. But at the end of the year, there are either going to be refunds made if people leave. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
And then, you know, so moving along rapidly, there are things that I was also concerned as far as the field goes. So I don't know if I want more to be forwarded on, so that way that Mark can take a look at it too. I know I've sent it on to Miss Sutherland as well. So, but like the dirt field is like lower than the grass, so water would drain back into the field itself. So I would say that would need to be raised and washed out. I noticed there was multiple acts of vandalism or basically scavenging of different regards, like around the concession stand, like some of the piping is missing. So as well as for the water fountains, things of that nature. So, and I have all that in report. I'm sure Mark could probably put a lot more into that than I could. Just being a coach, observing things.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks so much for letting us know, and yeah, I definitely think that'd be something great that you could forward it on to both Ms. Levin and Mr. Ragsdale.
Yeah, if I could get the staff to get it done, that would be great.
Yeah. I'll help
We
you.
are
100%.
trying.
But if we build it, they will come, is what he just said.
Right, yeah.
And he gave us his address. We're going to be knocking on his door.
Yeah, you have my address now. That's my email. I can come over and I'll help start putting some things together. I got a 16-year-old boy. I don't know if he's old enough for you guys to hire.
Dang it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
2 more years, we're going to expect him to apply.
Anybody else? Going once?
Laura Lessig, 15201 Fairview. I just wanted to mention that the tennis courts and resurfacing them, that you do, and I think it was said in one of the areas for, at City Hall here, to put in the pickleball striping, do that at Pompo too. Because wherever we have it's getting very popular, and, you know, there are groups trying to get another team together to do the pickleball activity. So I think it'd be positive to have it in wherever we have a tennis court. If we end up doing something at Rindell's, do it there as well. The other thing is, I'm not quite sure what our Recreation Commission is all about anymore. But in the past, as myself and several of you have been on the Recreation Commission, Parks and Recreation, this was talking about what's going on in the parks was always a discussion in those meetings and recommendations and all that kind of stuff. So I was surprised that this was not brought to that commission prior to coming to council for discussion as well, because I believe the Recreation Commission, I still call it Parks and Rec. If it's not part of it, that's fine, but they are closer to what the residents may want in the parks. And some of the discussion here, I kind of wonder if we really need half of the stuff that we talked about, especially in the Blanky Park. And just basic things like picnic tables and benches and things like that should be updated all the time, as well as the garbage cans. I mean, some of the garbage cans are falling apart. and they should be replaced as well. So those are things that we talked about when I was on the commission, about replacing, making it all look nice and clean and fresh in the areas. So I just think that as a city, we should all be together on what we're going to do. And hopefully, we'll get more people in here when you talk about it again at the next meeting, so that they can help drive your decisions on what priorities should be done with the parks. Because there's so many other things that the city needs to do with the services that we have. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, but with regards to that, again, this is just, we're just looking at numbers, looking at options and everything like that. So I know with the picnic tables and the trash cans, I believe there's something in your budget, Mr. Ragsdale, for replacement of those, isn't there? Just as, like, not all together, but here and there.
Here and there, yes.
Okay. So, because
But
actually.
we have actually purchased new garbage cans, just last month, actually.
Are they already out, or? Mm-hmm. Okay.
They are. We haven't purchased all new garbage
No,
cans
no,
because they're
absolutely.
expensive. And then, of course, with the new parks that I had redone, that was part of, you got new trash cans with Boris, you got new trash cans with Arrington, you got new trash cans with Meadows.
Not at Somerset.
Huh?
Not at Somerset.
I didn't do that park.
I know, I'm just letting you know. But, because thank you for bringing it up, Ms. Lessa, just really quick, because I was going to email you about this too, that we need actually in one more garbage can at Somerset, and it would behoove it to be placed at the path when it opens to the parking lot of Somerset. If they had a trash can there, because I notice when I'm walking through the park picking up trash, a lot of it is on the path into the park and out of the park. But hold on, because Ms. Sutherland has some. Sure. Don't worry, Dana, I got you too.
I'm sorry. Isn't the parking lot at Somerset city-owned?
Technically, yes.
And I don't think anyone's ever talked about fixing that in any way. I mean,
It's not really super bad.
okay, but I think we need to,
That's why I want to do a proactive moving forward, and, yeah, with the discussion with the parks and trying to plan for that kind of thing, as well as, with regards to what you were saying about the Parks and Rec Commission, we did actually get an email with regards to their thoughts and processes, and we do have that 5-year plan that was worked on by them, and these are just like more of the little finite points of what the 5-year plan was. So the 5-year plan was extremely broad, right? So this, very broad. So this discussion was brought up amongst council, and we offered to have a meeting for this in particular. And by doing that, this was just more about honing the things in particular that we see as we're out in our parks in our community, in our different parts of the city. So that's where this meeting came about. Would I be correct in saying that? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Somerset?
And how we were spending the money that was budgeted, so.
Yeah.
Kind of all started with the swings in Blanky.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it started.
All right, and the other thing, when you talked about having like a maintenance of, we got to do the sealants every few years, but the mulch has to
That's
be
part of
done
it.
every so
Yes.
often
Talked
as
about
well.
that, yeah.
But it's also probably should be on the list that every year you look at all this stuff. Because
Yeah.
right after they redid the mulch, like at Meadows, I go to Meadows all the time. I mean, it was looking, the kids just dig it out anyways. So you gotta fluff it up a little bit every now and then. So, thank you.
Agreed. Ms. Sutherland had something did you still want?
Yeah, just really quick before she came up, I wanted to say happy birthday to our regular resident, Laura Lessig.
Happy birthday.
You know how to party. Whoa.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Yep. Yep. Well, I did have one thing that a resident asked me to say before we left it. Not that we normally have this, but a resident who just recently lost his mother wanted me to please tell the chief and our police officers and our EMS how absolutely grateful he was for the way they conducted themselves while they were there. They brought his mother back, which gave him and his siblings an opportunity to say goodbye to her the way they needed to, so that they had better closure. So she did end up passing away that evening at the hospital. But he said their professionalism, the way they held themselves, and the way they treated the family while they were there in this emergency situation was beyond reproach, and he just wanted to make sure that I did thank them on his behalf and his family's behalf. So, with that solemn thing, I would entertain a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.